Hey, this is Zircon, and in this video, we're going to be checking out Arturia Pigments 6. Now, you all convinced me to purchase it after I did my synth tier list video. This was easily the #1 thing people told me to check out. I went out and bought it with my own money. I did not receive it for free or have any kind of promotional arrangement with Arturia, so you're going to get my unbiased and unfiltered opinion on the synth. Ready? Here we go. All right, I threw together a patch. I've spent about 3 hours with this, and I actually did read the manual. And I love this thing. I mean, I'm just having way too much fun with it. I get lost in the sound design. What is it? Well, Pigments is a multimodal, multi-engine synthesizer with very modern and very user-friendly graphic design. It is absolutely packed with functions and features. This is one of the most fully featured synthesizers I've ever used. I had the impression that this was more of a pure additive or a pure wavetable synth, and it is way, way beyond that at this point. Let's go ahead and start from scratch. This is not going to be a deep dive into every feature of Pigments, but I do want to show you the things that I really like about it and some of the most exciting capabilities. One thing that I was immediately drawn to, so the Wavetable engine. Now, Serum and Vital, excellent wavetable synths. Massive is really good too. And a lot of what makes a wavetable synth interesting is what you can do with those wavetables besides just change the position, and also the selection that it comes with. Pigments has a phenomenal selection of wavetables. Everything from what they call additive waveforms. Really cool stuff. I love that. Of course, basic waveforms. Complex stuff, you know, dubstep, bass music, really grungy. I'm getting ideas even just listening to this, right? This is with nothing going on other than just the wavetable scanning through. I like the fact that you can turn off morphing, which means rather than this smooth transition, you can have it snap. Which is more apparent on some wavetables than others. It's really cool that you can do that in just a click. So let's take one of these waveforms like this monster here and see what we can do with it. I love that there are many things that you can do and they're all laid out in one place. You don't have to go menu diving for them or even switch tabs. For example, unison is right here. Switching unison mode with just a click. Rather than having to load up what kind of mutator or effect that you want on the wavetable itself, you've got phase mod, transform, wave folding, ring mod, all that stuff is right there. This is where you get into the super crunchy and distorted type sound. With lots and lots of sub options. The fact that it has a dedicated wave folder right here on the front page, I think is really cool. That's very much a West Coast synthesis kind of thing. And then it has a modulator function that is totally separate from the LFOs. This modulator can be audible or not, like if we set this to a sawtooth. We actually hear that oscillator, but you could keep it off. And if you do, then this modulator is what affects these things here labeled like frequency mod, phase mod. So we don't have to hear that. or like square. Modulation is very straightforward, and it also just looks beautiful. I love the visualization. Just drag and drop. No need to go to like a complex mod table page. And if we look at the LFO editing, I'll say that the actual LFO shapes, it's not quite as customizable as Vital. For example, I love the LFO editor there and all the shapes that you can do, but that's because some of those functions are available elsewhere. We can have it not re-trigger at all, or re-trigger based on the position of other LFOs. It could re-trigger based on a mono playback. Then it'll re-trigger only when we actually lift up our hand and play a new note. Anyway, really cool stuff there, and just highly usable. Let's go ahead and throw on a chord. So this is like a harmonizer that's, again, really easy to access. This kind of stuff is awesome. And some of these functions are available for the other engine types too. You could spend a whole video talking about just the Wavetable, but moving on, it's got a fairly run-of-the-mill analog section. It's clean, it's functional, it gets the job done. Like if you wanted to create a super saw stack, it'd be pretty easy to do. Just dial in your 2 oscillators, and then we could maybe fine tune this a little bit, and then use unison. It's like a classic JP8080 kind of sound that you can get very easily. And just the sound of the oscillators is quite good to me. It's got different kinds of FM and sync. That's a sync function there. This sounds great. And it's as good a time as any to talk about the filters. Each of these engines can be sent into filter 1 or 2 or a blend, and you can also configure how these filters route into each other up here. Let's make a little PWM type sound. I'm going to throw LFO on width. And then on the envelopes tab, I love that you can just switch these really easily. The filter types are very extensive. Even this section alone would be excellent, but the fact that it has all of these other possibilities, even super sharp filters, like what they call the surgeon, and then these analog modeled ones, like the Matrix 12 and Jupiter 8, these sound very good to me. Let's throw an LFO on the cutoff here. Something like this. Doing a blend is very straightforward. So let's say we wanted a comb instead. We have this section going to filter 2 now. Now we can blend these. Or adjust the volume so it's kind of even. Again, just awesome, very playable, very easy to do sound design in. I'm going to turn off the filters for a second, and let's look at some of the other modes. Additive synthesis, which it calls harmonic, and this one is interesting to me. When I think of additive synthesis, I don't think of this kind of approach to it. I think of like drawing in the partials. But this is a very unique way of doing it. So let's say we're working with this, and let's say we want to add some phase mod. I'm going to throw an LFO on here. Also, I love the animations, really gorgeous stuff. Maybe I want to do a triangle shape. And changing the phase of the partials over time. Changing the partial modulation via either periodic or random. And you can visually see what's happening. The kinds of sounds that you can get from here are really interesting to me. And look at the waveform, you can see this window effect. We can see exactly what it's doing, what part of the signal it's modulating. Playing around with some of the other effects like clusters. Now we're getting into like inharmonic territory. Like, I love that sound. That's pretty cool. Throw a phaser on this. I've just been playing around a little bit more. See, part of synthesis to me, it's not just what it can do. I don't doubt that you could achieve some things like this in Morphine, which is one of the things I touched on in my synthesis tier video. And I'm sure you could also do it in Vital. But just the approach here, I find it very creative, very organic, and it really lends itself well. It wants you to dive in and edit things. And I think part of that is because the UI is just so cleverly laid out. But yeah, let's check out then modal synthesis. This is physical modeling. That's the best way to put it. Now, it doesn't sound like much, right? This is just a very simple, what sounds like a filtered saw. But just wait. Let's start by going into maybe a more guitar-esque sound. We're starting to get a little bit more of a mottled tone, right? But let's add some shaping to it. Envelope editor, also not quite as fully featured as something like Vital, but still very good. I like that you can change the curves so easily. This friction thing is really interesting to me because it adds a more bowed element, or like kind of a simulated bow. Like if we take off the collision element and we just focus on friction, increase the sustain, play around with the settings and the shaper a little bit more. How about electric piano? Let's try throwing an envelope on this and see if we can get like a tapped metal sound. This is like hitting a cable, right? I love all of that. And then finally, the sample playback is very, very deep. This took me by surprise. I'm used to synths where the sample playback is just load a sample and it plays it back. Just a single sample. And that's currently what I have loaded. But it goes way beyond that. But you can load up a whole map of samples. So different samples per key, round robins, velocity based. It is very, very interesting. Not to mention having multiple slots for the samples as well. Let's just check out some of the ones that they have available by default. Okay, now we're going to enable the granular mode. The effects section is excellent. I think this is beyond what I would hope for in a synth like this. I love that they have multiple different choruses and unisons, but let's go ahead and add a shimmer reverb. And then for the aux effects, it's the same list, but you can just dial in however much you want. So we're gonna do maybe tape echo, ping pong, good old dotted eighths, stereo width. How about some noise for one of our sources? So we've got this, and let's throw on one of these awesome filters, maybe something like a classic gentle low pass. And I want to do like a drone this time. So let's do a nice slow filter sweep. And then what's great is that it's so easy to combine this with another engine. So we have the two engines that run concurrently. Let's get a textural sound here. How about a function generator assigned to position? And here's where you can get into the really customizable stuff. This is more like what you have in Vital, where it's highly customizable. Let's also assign this to volume too. You see how easy it is to just get into the sound design of it. I'm having so much fun. The utility engine is great because there are two different, essentially sample playback layers here. These are all different kinds of noise that you can add in. We could do, I love that there's just aliasing as one of the effects. Let's do something like... We can dial in some different effects. How about a chorus, Juno 60 style? Awesome. It's so fun. It's just so much fun. Having a pitch shift delay built in. If you don't know me, I love me a good pitch shifted delay. Oh, and of course, there's a sequencer built into it. I mean, come on, that is just great. The sequencer is designed in a very intuitive way. It might look intimidating at first, but you've got different lanes. So turning off certain steps, you just click on the on-off row. Let's generate some new patterns. Increase the random chance on pitch. This can also be used as an arpeggiator. Now, this is a very, very quick example of how this works, but the point is having this very fully featured thing in here is a huge bonus. Even if it's not something you're going to use all the time, being able to very quickly get an arpeggiated pattern or a sequence pattern is just great. Presets here, I haven't played even 10% of them yet, but there's a lot of really good stuff. From your classic D50 Rompler-esque, really nasty basses. Good old what the? Love that. Ooh. Some wonderful leads. The name is very appropriate for that BFG lead. I mean, pads, strings. I feel like I could play in here all day long and just not get bored. And something else that I think is really clever about this is the play tab. So if you just want to load up the instrument and not get into the nitty-gritty of the synth, you load up a preset, Ice Kings. You have all the key controls, the stuff that's going to have the most impact on the sound, macros, and then these big areas here. So what else is there to say? Pigments is amazing. I had high expectations for it, and I would say it exceeded those expectations. It's really hard to think of any criticism for it. I mean, maybe the fact that it doesn't have a really deep wavetable editor built in, like Vital and Serum let you really manipulate the wavetables from within the engine. I don't think Pigments can do that. I haven't seen that functionality, but I think that's it. Now, granted, it's not a cheap synthesizer, although it does go on sale. Arturia is pretty good about bargains, but is it worth the money? 100% yes. Is it worth the money if you have Serum and Vital or Massive X and other really modern synths? I would still say yes, because it's got the granular stuff. It's got a really cool bank of wavetables, the whole rich sample playback, granular, the beautiful UI, very, very inspiring presets, great organization for everything. I know it's very early to say because I just started using this, but I would already go ahead and put this in S tier for me. I have a feeling this is going to be a new favorite, and I actually look forward to making some preset banks for it. So be sure to subscribe to this channel and like if you want to stay updated on that. Will probably come out through my company, Impact Soundworks. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody who recommended the synth to me. I could not be happier with it. I truly love it. Pigments gets my absolute highest rating. All right, this has been Zircon. Leave a comment with what you think about Pigments, if you're using it, or if based on this review, you might pick it up. I'd love to hear what you have to say. All right, I'll see you in the next one.